Hi, I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater, coming to you from NAMM 2022, Anaheim, California. We are in the Taylor booth with our friend Mark. It's great to see you, buddy.
Good to see you, man.
You guys got gorgeous guitars, as always.
Yeah.
I mean, the booth is just packed full of gorgeous stuff, but we got some special ones here, don't we?
Got some new ones for you guys. Yeah, we've redone our 700 series, and we've gone all Koa on it.
Oh, beautiful.
And there's a really cool story behind it. I'll just go briefly, but over the years with Koa, it's always been kind of that unobtainium. It's hard to get, and we have limited supplies. But because of the good steward that we've been with the forestry stuff, over the last several years, we've just really made some great inroads with getting some new farmers out there to release some logs, and we're funding it back, dollar for dollar, making sure that we're making it sustainable. As a result, we've got a couple of trees that we didn't, a little bit different than we usually see with Koa, that were a little bit straighter. We'll talk about that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But as a result, we got kind of a lot more Koa, so we're able to make it more affordable as well as provide it to more people, which, whenever we do road shows, we come out to Sweetwater, do a road show, everybody loves Koa. It's kind of the showstopper as usual, right?
Yeah.
So what Andy wanted to do was, he said, well, look, we've got these different grades of Koa. We have the super high end, what we keep for our K series, it's a very small percentage of the tree. And we say, okay, well, we can do the K series the way we do those with the highly figured Koa. But there's this other grade that he calls select grade now. And he talks about the wood itself. It's a great wood for woodworkers to work with, builders to work with. It ages well, it sounds great, all of that. Not quite as figured as the premium stuff. Okay. When we do the premium stuff, we typically do a really kind of a thick finish on it where you can see a mile into it to hear Andy say it.
Yeah, right.
And they're beautiful, and they're great display guitars. And they've got a kind of a good warm sound, a little bit brooding at times. Mm-hmm. So we thought, well, if we're going to make this other model of the 700 series, we wanted to take this grade that we call select grade. Still has really good color variation, as you can see.
Yeah, they're gorgeous.
I mean, they're really pretty guitars. Not quite as crazy as the K series stuff, but also the grain's a little bit straighter, and that's a direct result of those trees, growing a little bit straighter. So we've got this wood, and we thought, well, if we're going to make a 700 series, Andy did not want to make, a K series that was just 700. He wanted to actually make it sound different, have some different aesthetics and things of that nature, primarily sound. And so what he did was, on the back bracing, he went to the edges and made them a little bit stiffer on the very edges of the back bracing, and the back's a little bit thinner, so it just moves a little bit differently and gives it a different sound, a little snappier, a little more vibrant. Okay. Not quite as like, we talk about brooding, that's the word I use with Koa, but it's always, my Koa guitars have that kind of more dark, and there's a great tone to them. Right. This has something a little different, and you'll notice when we play in just a second. But a couple of the things that are really neat about the guitar is some of the appointments. Rosewood was off the menu for quite a while for us, just due to regulations and whatnot, and that's become a lot more available again. We think that's going to be around for quite some time. So we were able to bind these guitars in rosewood, which is super cool. Yeah. We've got these new polished bronze tuners. And everything I'm saying about this 724 is going to be the same for the 722. So what I'm holding is our 724, which is the Grand Auditorium. Anything that ends in a 4 is always a Grand Auditorium. That's the 722. That's going to be the Grand Concert, the smaller body version of this, right? So when you hear this right out of the gate, what you're going to hear, it's definitely snappier, more vibrant is kind of one of the words we use for it. Yeah. But what's neat is Andy put this ultra thin matte finish on it. And he says it's as thin of a finish as he'll put on a guitar. We did the 800 series a while back. We went down, I think, 3.5 mils. Right. And that was really thin. This one's roughly 2. Wow. You can feel the pores of it. Yeah. And what happens is it becomes very player reflective because of that, meaning it kind of absorbs when you're playing. You can hear little things on it. It's really a cool vibe. Very organic would be a word I would use as well. Mm-hmm. But the other thing is when you play it yourself, you'll find it feels very light, very airy. And I say dry, but dry in a good way. It's got that, I've got some old Martins that my dad and my grandfather left me. And they're that dry, just really neat vibe. This has it right out of the gate, which is super cool. And the other thing that's neat about both these guitars is that we really timed it well. Sometimes that's hard to do between marketing and releasing a product, but we have them now, and they're out there, and they're both $34.99. So they're available, and that's hard for us to do typically.
And beautiful,
to time it all
absolutely gorgeous. They have chatoyancy. That's my word for the day.
Chatoyancy, all right.
Where the grain kind of changes and the figuring changes as you move the.
See, I'm so stealing that. Thank you. That's a great word, chatoyancy. I'm gonna have to go back and watch this video to remember it.
There you go. Right. Does the straighter grain make a difference over the tone versus the figured?
I don't want to say for certain, but what I have heard is typically it's a little more stable when you have it a little bit straighter. It's a little bit more consistent. Mm-hmm. In fact, Andy, in one of the videos, he's not saying it sounds better than our regular code, but it's certainly there. Yeah. And maybe there's a little edge to it because it's a little bit
There's
straighter.
all those little tiny kind of things that kind of work as a whole to give you the overall sound and flavor of the
It's like
guitars.
a good bottle of wine, right? There's so much nuance that goes into it, and if you can really discern that, that's kind of how these guitars are. It's cool about it also if you hear like a fingerstyle, vibe of the song. Really warm, and just smooth, easy to play. That's one of the things I love about our Grand Auditoriums and our Grand Concerts is that you can shift to fingerstyle really comfortably on them. All right, so what we have here is our 722, the Grand Concert, and all that's different here is the scale length is a little bit shorter, and the body's a little bit narrow and a little bit smaller. Right? This, traditionally, we love this for fingerstyle because it's a very light touch. It won't be quite as loud as that guitar, but with a lighter touch, you'll actually get to the volume ceiling a little bit faster, meaning less energy, so you can relax a little bit and still get a fair amount of volume out of it. It's a very similar sound between the two. It's just, it'll be a volume. If I do decide to dig in. Still, fair amount of volume to it. And you can dig in. It's not going to command a room by itself, if you're playing with other players, but by itself in the recording studio, just a fantastic guitar. And so that's kind of the deal. They're available, $34.99, and they're beautiful guitars.
I actually started, my first Taylor was a concert size.
Oh, was it?
And the reason I chose it was because it actually had more bottom end than some of the bigger guitars. It's funny how that works sometimes. The smaller body will actually resonate and develop those low frequencies, and especially for low tunings.
You bring up a good point with the low frequencies also. With Koa, that's kind of its specialty. I'm sure you know that, but Koa tends to, over time, gather some of that low end. So as it gets played in, these guitars should get even a little bit warmer, a little bit more bass to them.
Nice. Well, I could feel this one resonating as you were playing that.
Oh, nice.
This one was just ringing in my fingers there. I didn't look at this so much from the front before, but I know you said they were not as figured, but that is a gorgeous figured top on that.
It is, and it's funny because when you see this super crazy heartwood, and that's kind of what people look when they think Koa, these $10,000 showpieces. But this is a gorgeous. And what I love about Koa also, and I'm sure you would agree, is that every one is a fingerprint. When you get your guitar and you start to get familiar with what that figuring looks like, it's a fingerprint. If you look at the front of this one, for example, there's that little heartwood right there. Like that's the only one of those that has that.
Right.
And if that's your guitar, you're like, no one's stealing that. At least we're not gonna, it's gonna get seen and figured out. But
there's also a little flame across it as well. When you get it the right angle, you can see across. It's just gorgeous. Just absolutely beautiful. Flame on the back too. That is a gorgeous guitar. Gorgeous.
What was the word again?
Chatoyancy.
Chatoyancy.
That's when you turn it, you can see that flame kind of come in and out as you go.
It's very three-dimensional. You can almost get, you can almost get seasick looking at it.
Right.
All right, let's go on to our AD27. This is our flame top. Now, what's interesting about this, it's our American Dream Grand Pacific body shape, V-class bracing. But typically when we think of maple, what do we think of? You remember?
Brighter, right?
It's bright, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so typically you think, okay, this guitar is going to have this really bright sound. It's all maple, so it should be, sustain should go pretty quickly, and it should be pretty bright. Well, Andy paired this up with the uncoated nickel bronze strings from Diodario. Different thing for us. You can see they're nickel color. They're not our normal bronze that we use on our Elixers. And he did some tweaking to it, and ultimately what happened, this guitar comes out of the box.
Wow.
It's about the warmest Taylor. It's the most un-Taylor that I've heard. I'm serious. And what was fascinating to me is I own a Grand Pacific 517, and so it's mahogany, and I would expected it to be a lot warmer than this. I thought, maple, it's going to this thing is so much warmer and fuller.
Yeah.
And people are like, how do you describe it? And I'm trying to think, but all I can say is, to me, when I hear it, it sounds like a fully produced acoustic guitar after it's been mic'd, EQ'd, mastered, and you're listening back to the track. It's just enormous.
Yeah.
Wow. It's still got that shimmer up on top, but overall it's just got this really warm sound. So what I was saying yesterday, I played it, and literally I hear that like acoustically, it might be my favorite, G chord on any Taylor that I've played, for real. And it's like, that's how I do it, because I play these guitars for 15 years, we've been doing this.
Yeah.
And there's something about that just sounds finished.
You said I'd be surprised when I heard it.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm surprised. And once again, I could feel the top on this guitar just resonate. That is a loud guitar, too.
It really is, yeah.
It's up the volume, so.
Maple back sides all the way around it.
Beautiful.
And the uncoated strings, that was a big deal in the V class, and that's pretty much the American Dream flame top, but I think these are available as well, and just fun guitars. So.
Wow, so much cool stuff. Thanks so much for giving us the tour. Wow,
course.
they just sound fantastic. Of course, you sound fantastic too, man.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. It's great to see you.
Always a pleasure to see you as well.
We'll see you soon. I'll be out there one of these days again. I know we did our Gear Fest for, many, many years. I didn't do it the last couple of years, but.
Well, come out anytime.
Are you guys still doing that? Is that coming back now?
It's out. It'll be online in a few weeks. So yeah, we'll be diving back into Gear Fest right after NAMM.
Excellent. Well, good to see you, man.
Great to see you too, Mark.
Take care of yourself.
And thank you for joining me here at the Taylor booth. I'm Mitch Gallagher from Sweetwater.